Welcome to this episode of Fireside Unsolved, where the flickering flames of mystery illuminate the shadows of the alphabet murders. A chilling saga that still leaves an enduring mark on the cityscape of Rochester, New York. Between the years of 1971 and 1973, this unsolved series of child murders, ominously known as the alphabet murders, beckons us into a dark realm where the ordinary gives way to the unsettling. Picture the streets of Rochester in the early 1970s, where urban landscapes merge with quiet neighborhoods, and suspense hangs heavy in the air. An elusive predator prowling the streets in the shadows, leaving in its wake a haunting series of unanswered questions. The very fabric of this community was forever altered by the malevolent unknown, as innocence was shattered and a city's sense of security crumbled. Join Fireside Unsolved as we embark on a journey into the heart of darkness, peeling back the layers of a mystery that has eluded resolution for decades. The alphabet murders, etched in the chronicles of true crime, reveal a sinister force that targeted the most vulnerable population, the children of Rochester. The whispers of their stories echo through time, seeking justice and yearning to unravel the secrets hidden within the folds of the past. Amid the mysterious alleyways and dimly lit corners of Rochester and the surrounding area, Fireside Unsolved will be your guide, delving deep into the maze of clues, interrogating the shadows, and unraveling the chilling narrative that has gripped this city for far too long. So, stoke the fires of curiosity and brace yourself for a journey into the unknown, as we endeavor to shed light on the darkest chapters of Rochester's history, the alphabet murders. Amidst the foreboding afternoon of November 16, 1971, the thoroughfares of Rochester, New York, became silent witnesses to the enigmatic vanishing act of Carmen Colon, a 10-year-old whose presence mysteriously evaporated into the chilling air. As the clock struck 4:20 p.m., Carmen, following her grandmother's instructions, entered a pharmacy on West Main Street. However, the mundane task took a bewildering turn. Eyewitnesses recounted a peculiar scene. The young girl, after learning that the prescribed medication was not ready, uttered an urgent declaration to the store owner, Jack Corbin. "I gotta go. I gotta go." In a fleeting moment, Carmen exited the pharmacy and was observed entering a car parked nearby. The streets, once unassuming, now held the secrets of Carmen Colon's sudden departure. A departure that marked the beginning of a perplexing journey into the unknown, where shadows concealed the truth and the whispers of witnesses lingered in the chilly November air. Approximately 50 minutes after Carmen Colon's abrupt exit from the pharmacy, scores of motorists, navigating the bustling highway, became unwitting witnesses to a haunting spectacle on Interstate 490. Naked from the waist down, Carmen was seen running desperately from a reversing vehicle believed to be a dark-colored Ford Pinto hatchback. She was reported to be frantically waving her arms and shouting for help. The passing motorists observed Carmen's distress as she attempted to flag down any passing vehicle. Her vulnerability laid bare for all on the interstate to witness. At least one witness later reported the heart-wrenching sight of Carmen being submissively led back to the very vehicle from which she had been trying to flee. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting shadows over the city, the Rochester Police Department was finally notified of her absence at 7:50 p.m., plunging the community into an urgent search for answers. 2 haunting days later, uncertainty lifted to unveil a chilling discovery. 2 teenage boys stumbled upon Carmen Colon's unclothed body in a gully, near the quiet town of Churchville, approximately 12 miles from the last reported sighting of Carmen. Upon further investigation of the crime scene, her coat was discovered in a culvert, approximately 300 feet from where her body was found. Oddly, her trousers were not found until November 30th, on a service road near where she was seen attempting to escape her abductor, witnessed by numerous motorists. An autopsy revealed the brutality of the attack and the injuries inflicted upon this innocent child. Carmen had not only been assaulted, but had also suffered a fractured skull and a damaged vertebra before facing the final act of cruelty, manual strangulation. The scars of her struggle were etched in the extensive scratches left by fingernails, a painful testament to the violence that marred her final moments. The heinous murder of Carmen Colon, and possibly just as unsettling, the fact that no one who witnessed her desperate attempt to flee her abductor alongside Interstate 490 extended a helping hand, sparked a tsunami of public outrage, not just in Rochester, but across the country. The silence of onlookers in the face of her distress became a haunting indictment of humanity's collective failure. In response to this palpable anger, two prominent New York newspapers at the time, the Times-Union and the Democrat and Chronicle, took action. They jointly offered a reward of $2,500, about $19,000 in 2024, for any information leading to the arrest and conviction of Carmen's murderer. This initial sum continued to grow, as numerous local businesses and residents, moved by a shared sense of justice, added private donations to the fund. The collective generosity of the community eventually pushed the reward beyond $6,000, equivalent to around $46,000 in 2024, a testament to the community's fervent desire for resolution. Despite the relentless efforts of the police, who interrogated several suspects in the aftermath of Carmen's murder, all leads ran dry. By December 21st, the number of investigators assigned to the case on a full-time basis dwindled to a mere 3, reflecting the frustrating lack of progress. In early 1972, the city of Rochester was witness to another bold move for justice. 5 colossal billboards, each measuring 30 feet by 12 feet, loomed over major expressways. Adorned with an 8-foot-high picture of Carmen, they posed a simple yet haunting question. Do you know who killed Carmen Colon? The Rochester Outdoor Advertising Company, moved by the urgency of the cause, granted free use of these billboards for a month. Alongside the compelling visuals, the $6,000 reward was prominently displayed, encouraging anyone with information to come forward through a dedicated hotline and postal address established the previous November, shortly after her disappearance. Though this initiative generated several new leads, justice remained elusive, leaving the community in continued anguish, and the billboards standing as somber reminders of an unresolved tragedy. 17 months later, at approximately 5 p.m. on April 2, 1973, 11-year-old Wanda Walkowicz walked into a delicatessen on the east side of Rochester. As recounted by the owner of the delicatessen, Wanda had been tasked to purchase groceries for her family. By approximately 5:15 p.m., she was finished with her purchase and started her solitary walk home on Conkey Avenue. By 8 p.m., Wanda had not returned, and Wanda's mother, Joyce, reported her missing. Promptly, the police initiated an exhaustive search to locate Wanda. Nearly 50 detectives combed through several square miles, including the vicinity of her home, the delicatessen, and areas around the Genesee River where she often played. Despite these efforts, the searches proved fruitless. Some local residents recalled seeing Wanda struggling with a bag of groceries, walking just north of Avenue B. 3 of her classmates specifically remembered her propping the bag against a fence to secure a better grip as a brown vehicle passed by. Regrettably, Walkowicz's fully clothed body was discovered by a police officer at 10:15 a.m. the following day, discarded at the base of a hillside alongside an access road to State Route 104 in Webster, New York, approximately 7 miles from Rochester. The position of her body strongly suggested that she had been thrown from a moving vehicle, tumbling down the embankment. An autopsy brought forth distressing details, revealing that she had been assaulted and then strangled from behind with a ligature, likely a belt. Tragically, defensive wounds on Walkowicz's body indicated a brave struggle against her assailant. Additionally, her body had been redressed posthumously. The autopsy also unveiled traces of fluid and foreign hair on the child's body. Moreover, several strands of white cat fur were discovered on her clothing, despite the fact that the Walkowicz family did not have a pet with fur of this particular color. This mysterious detail added another layer of intrigue to the already tragic circumstances surrounding her untimely murder. Similar to the approach taken in Carmen Colon's case, investigators set up an anonymous telephone hotline and distributed hundreds of flyers throughout Rochester, urging anyone with information to come forward. To intensify efforts, a $10,000 reward, $77,000 in 2024, was offered for information leading to the arrest and conviction of Walkowicz's murderer. These proactive measures by the police bore fruit when an eyewitness came forward. This individual reported having seen Wanda standing beside the passenger door of a large brown vehicle, engaged in conversation with the driver, as she walked home from the delicatessen on the evening of April 2nd. Unfortunately, the eyewitness couldn't provide a clear view of the occupant of the vehicle. Intriguingly, this sighting occurred just 0.2 of a mile from the Walkowicz home, adding a significant piece to the puzzle in the investigation. In another crucial development, an individual who reached out to investigators after the anonymous hotline was established reported witnessing a man forcibly putting a red-haired girl, fitting Walkowicz's description, into a light-colored Dodge Dart on Conkey Avenue between 5:30 p.m. and 6 p.m. on the evening of her disappearance. Despite the mounting evidence and public concern, The Rochester Police Department dismissed any connection between the murders of Colon and Walkowicz. However, a sheriff's sergeant, originally assigned to investigate Colon's still open but largely inactive case at the time, was reassigned to the task force dedicated to investigating Walkowicz's murder. In September 1973, the local television network announced plans to air a televised reconstruction of Walkowicz's abduction and the subsequent discovery of her body. A 30-minute episode was broadcast on October 21st, accompanied by public appeals for witnesses to come forward. While this program prompted over 200 calls from the public, unfortunately, no actionable leads were obtained by the Rochester Police Department. The mystery persisted, leaving the community both concerned and frustrated. Tragically, 7 months after Wanda's murder, on the evening of November 26, 1973, 11-year-old Michelle Maenza was reported missing by her mother, Carolyn, when she failed to return home from school. Investigations revealed that Maenza was last seen by her classmates around 3:20 p.m., walking alone towards a shopping plaza near her school. Her intention was to retrieve a purse her mother had left in a store within the plaza earlier that day. Approximately 10 minutes later, a witness observed Maenza sitting in the passenger seat of a beige or tan vehicle speeding on Ackerman Street before turning onto Webster Avenue. Disturbingly, the witness noted that the child appeared to be weeping. At 5:30 p.m. on November 26th, another motorist witnessed a man standing by a large beige or tan vehicle with a flat tire parked along Route 350 in Walworth. The man was holding a girl, strongly believed to be Michelle Maenza, by the wrist. When the motorist stopped to offer assistance, the individual intentionally blocked the view of the license plate and, with a menacing expression, pushed the girl behind him. The motorist, feeling threatened, drove away. Tragically, Maenza's fully clothed body was discovered at 10:30 a.m. on November 28th, lying face down in a ditch alongside a rural road in Macedon, approximately 15 miles from Rochester. The autopsy revealed extensive blunt force trauma to her body, indicating she had been assaulted. Furthermore, she had been strangled to death from behind with a ligature, possibly a thin rope. Disturbingly, numerous strands of white cat fur were found on her clothing, and leaf samples matching the foliage where her body was discovered were recovered from within one of her clenched hands. This suggested she might have been strangled to death at or near the location where she was found. Investigators also retrieved a partial palm print from her neck and traces of foreign bodily fluid on her body and underwear, confirming she had been assaulted by a single individual. The community was left in shock and horror as the search for justice intensified. The investigation into Michelle Maenza's tragic murder took a chilling turn with the analysis of her stomach contents. Traces of a hamburger and onions were discovered, indicating that she had consumed them approximately 1 hour before her untimely death. This finding lent credibility to earlier reports of a girl matching Maenza's description being seen in the company of a Caucasian man with dark hair. The man, aged between 25 and 35, stood approximately 6 feet tall and weighed around 165 pounds. Witness accounts placed the girl and the man at a fast food restaurant in the town of Penfield at around 4:30 p.m. on the afternoon of her disappearance. Subsequently, they were observed together alongside Route 350 approximately 1 hour later. These unsettling details added a disturbing layer to the circumstances surrounding Michelle Maenza's final moments, prompting intensified efforts to identify and apprehend the assailant responsible for this heinous crime. The brutal murders of Carmen Colon, Wanda Walkowicz, and Michelle Maenza stirred intense public outrage, capturing widespread attention. Following the tragic death of Michelle Maenza, investigators took significant steps to identify the perpetrator. They released a composite drawing of the individual seen with the child by numerous witnesses to the media. Additionally, a dedicated telephone hotline was established exclusively for the manhunt, with anonymity and a reward offered for information leading to the arrest and conviction of the suspected perpetrator. Despite generating numerous calls from the public, the efforts did not yield a credible suspect. The exhaustive investigation involved interrogating over 800 potential suspects in connection to the Alphabet murders. However, the perpetrator or perpetrators behind these heinous crimes were never apprehended, leaving the case unsolved. Notably, all 3 victims came from poor Catholic families, had few friends, and had recently faced challenges such as bullying or poor academic performance at their schools. Investigators have not ruled out the possibility that the murderer may have been employed by or had knowledge of the practices of a social service agency, using this connection to initiate contact with and gain the trust of each victim. The unsettling pattern in the Alphabet murders became more apparent as investigators delved into the details of each case. All 3 victims, Carmen Colon, Wanda Walkowicz, and Michelle Mainza were pre-adolescent females who disappeared from Rochester in the early afternoon. Each girl's body was found in nearby towns, either fully clothed or partially clothed, close to an expressway, in locations typically accessible by vehicle. Evidently, each victim had been either thrown from or carried from a car to the location where her body was discarded. All three girls had been assaulted before being strangled to death. The investigation also uncovered peculiar details, such as the analysis of stomach contents revealing that both Walkowicz and Mainza had ingested food shortly before their deaths, which they were not known to have eaten prior to their disappearances. Furthermore, the bodies of both girls had been redressed after death, adding an eerie element to the modus operandi of the perpetrator. Contemporary and current investigators alike have dismissed the possibility that the victims were chosen based on the double initials of their names. They argue that for an offender to pre-select victims for such an incidental reason would likely involve prolonged stalking, increasing the risk of detection. This reasoning leads investigators to believe that the choice of victims was not driven by their initials. Furthermore, some investigators express the belief that while the murders of Walkowicz and Mainza may have been committed by the same individual, the overall MO in the case of Carmen Colon suggests a different scenario. The details surrounding Colon's murder indicate that she may have been killed by someone known to her, possibly even related, rather than by an unknown assailant who abducted her by force. This distinction adds complexity to the investigation and raises questions about the dynamics and motives behind each of these tragic cases. In the case of Carmen Colon, her paternal uncle, Miguel Colon, emerged as a significant suspect in her murder, according to investigators. Following the separation of Carmen's parents, Miguel had formed a relationship with her mother, Guillermina. Typically, Carmen would be accompanied by her grandfather, Felix, when walking to the pharmacy to collect family prescriptions. However, on the day of her disappearance, Carmen pleaded with her grandparents to allow her to walk to the pharmacy unaccompanied. Several weeks before Carmen's abduction and murder, her uncle Miguel had purchased a car that closely matched the description given by eyewitnesses, who observed a vehicle pursuing the child on Interstate 490. Investigators searched Miguel's vehicle shortly after Carmen's murder and discovered that both the interior and exterior had been extensively cleaned. The trunk had been washed with a strong cleaning solution, and questioning the dealership that sold the car revealed that the trunk had not been cleaned with a detergent before the sale. Additionally, a doll belonging to Carmen was found in Miguel's car, although relatives mentioned that she often traveled in Miguel's vehicle and might have left the toy there. Suspicion grew when, 2 days after Carmen's death, Miguel informed a friend of his intention to leave the country, expressing that he had done something wrong in Rochester. He indeed relocated from Rochester to Puerto Rico just 4 days after Carmen's murder. Investigators traveled to San Juan to question Miguel in March 1972, but news articles detailing police intentions led to him fleeing from authorities. He later surrendered, agreeing to be extradited back to Rochester for questioning. Despite strong circumstantial evidence pointing to Miguel's guilt, such as the lack of a credible alibi and his abrupt departure after Carmen's murder, no physical evidence linking him to the crime was found. Miguel Colon tragically took his own life in 1991 at the age of 44, following a domestic violence incident in which he shot and wounded both his wife and his brother. Another individual strongly suspected in the Alphabet murders is Dennis Termini, a 25-year-old Rochester firefighter known as the Garage R-Word, due to his involvement in a series of at least 14 assaults of teenage girls and young women between the years 1971 and 1973. Termini owned a beige vehicle similar in description to the one witnessed by several eyewitnesses during the abductions. Notably, he resided on Bach Street, an address in close proximity to where Michelle Mainza was last seen alive. A chilling incident unfolded 5 weeks after the death of the last Alphabet murders victim. On January 1, 1974, Termini attempted to abduct a teenage girl at gunpoint. His plan was thwarted when the girl refused to stop screaming, prompting him to flee the scene. Shortly after, he successfully abducted another potential victim, leading to a police pursuit. This pursuit ended with Termini committing suicide by shooting himself in the head. In a subsequent forensic examination of Termini's vehicle, traces of white cat fur were discovered on the upholstery. In an attempt to ascertain Termini's involvement in the Alphabet murders, his body was exhumed in January 2007 to obtain a DNA sample. However, the DNA test results revealed that Termini was not responsible for the murder of Wanda Walkowicz. Unfortunately, no physical evidence retrieved from the bodies of Carmen Colon or Michelle Mainza existed at the time for comparison with Termini's DNA, leaving lingering uncertainties surrounding his potential connection to these tragic cases. In April 2011, Joseph Nasso, a 77-year-old individual, was arrested in Reno, Nevada, for the murders of 4 women in California, committed between 1977 and 1994. These victims were believed to be prostitutes, and notably, each had a surname beginning with the same letter as their first name. Nasso, originally from New York, and a former resident of Rochester during the early 1970s, was known to regularly travel between New York and California. Initially considered a person of interest in the alphabet murders, Nasso underwent DNA testing, which subsequently confirmed that his DNA did not match the samples recovered from the body of Wanda Walkowicz. Joseph Nasso faced trial on June 18, 2013, charged with the murders of the 4 California alphabet murder victims. After unanimous conviction on August 20, 2013, Nasso was formally sentenced to death on November 22, 2013. While Nasso's arrest and conviction brought justice for the California victims, the connection to the alphabet murders in Rochester remained inconclusive. The emotional impact of the alphabet murders on the families involved, such as that of Carmen Colon, is profound and enduring. In 1995, Carmen's mother, Guillermina Colon, made a heartfelt public statement expressing her enduring pain and desire for justice. Despite facing a life marked by poverty, Guillermina emphasized that her ultimate wish was not wealth, but the knowledge of who had murdered her daughter. She conveyed the sentiment, "If I could die knowing who killed my Carmencita, I could die more peacefully than I have lived." In 2009, the Democrat and Chronicle newspaper undertook a series of articles focusing on the ongoing police investigation into the alphabet murders, appealing for public information to help close the case. This effort resulted in the Rochester Police Department receiving approximately 20 new leads. Despite the pursuit of each lead, none led to the apprehension and conviction of the perpetrator or perpetrators. Nevertheless, a police spokesman affirmed the department's unwavering commitment to solving the case. The community and law enforcement continue to grapple with the unsolved mystery, seeking closure and justice for the victims and their families.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Fireside Unsolved. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe to help the channel grow. Until next time, take it easy and be easy, you filthy bastards.